Good morrow, scholars. Welcome back to Blood of the Dead. How are you guys doing today? I'm doing pretty good, I suppose. A little bit of a late start, but I guess that's to be expected. I'm gonna work on my sleeping pattern, so don't let me forget not to go to sleep tonight. See, I think what it is, um, if you um, if you stay awake for about 24 hours, give or take, and then go to bed at a reasonable time, it kind of resets your clock somewhat, and it's good for if you're not eating properly. Like get the correct times of the day. Anyway, before I get too much more distracted than I already am, we are in chapter 30, page 181. Yes, we are. Sorry. Uh-oh. It's a bit dusty in here. And my allergies are acting up. That's not very good. Oh, my eye. The front two legs of the wooden chair slammed back down, jolting August out of his sleep. What? After getting his bearings and making sure the chair he sat upon was firm on the floor, he frowned for having dozed off. Oh, okay. The maintenance room was quiet. Joe curled up against the far wall, trench coat still on, its collar bunched up around his neck as a makeshift pillow. Des lay sprawled out on the floor to the side of him, snoring. The small candle on the workbench was burned down near to nothing and would soon need replacing. Billy wasn't there. Dang it, Billy. You should have been watching, August thought. The plan was to take turns keeping an eye out. He had volunteered to go first in spite of how tired he was. That, and he still didn't completely trust his new comrades. To just hand over his rifle and say, shoot anything that moves and is not alive. Well, might as well just give your life over to a stranger and hope for the best. Should he go look for her? Earlier, when he and Joe had gone after the zombie that was lurking in the building, they had come up empty. Even after an hour of searching, wherever the thing was, it was still out there. How it had evaded them so easily, especially given how slow the dead were, he didn't know. Billy couldn't have been gone that long. She was still there, lying next to the door when August last surveyed the room before falling asleep. It certainly didn't feel like he had passed out for long. Maybe 5 or 10 minutes. 20 tops. That's plenty of time to get lost and get into trouble. Right. She probably just went to the bathroom instead. But we're on the buddy system. She should know better. Besides, she and the others had already gone to clean up. Kept watch for them. It had, however, been difficult for the others to clean up and use the facilities now that the plumbing no longer worked. He double-checked the room just in case she had decided to switch corners or sleep under the workbench. I probably would have done that. Nothing. She was gone. The door to the room was unlocked. No sound came from the hallway beyond. I'm going to go check, he told himself, and moved toward Joe so he could wake him up and tell him what was up. It's a good idea. Just as he was about to give Joe a shake on the shoulder, the maintenance door screeched open. August spun around, rifle aimed at the human-shaped shadow at the door. Again, don't give me a gun. It's me, Billy said, her voice quiet. He lowered the weapon. She came in, turned to close the door behind her and locked it. Then, hands dropped down at her sides, slowly slumped down against the wall adjacent to the door. She didn't look at him, but instead kept her gaze toward the door. In the faint light, her eyes glistened amidst red cheeks and puffy skin. She had been crying. August returned his chair and eased himself down, planting the butt of the rifle against the door. He leaned against it like a walking stick. He didn't say anything. Neither did she. The minutes ticked by. I didn't want to wake anybody, she said softly. It's okay. I'm sorry for falling asleep. He said as gently as he could. It had been a long time since he had to comfort someone so young. The last had been his son over some trouble he'd been having early on in his marriage. Chad had dad. But next time, wake me up, okay? Or Des, or Joe. She nodded and turned further away so she could wipe her eyes. Want to tell me what's wrong? He asked. Billy snapped and wiped the lock of pink hair away from her eyes. When she spoke, her voice cracked. I just miss my family. That's all. I spent a lot of time trying not to think about it, but it comes back, you know? I thought I could be strong, but after today... He waited for her to finish, but the words never came. It's sad. How long do you think you could hold it together? An aching warmth filled August's heart. I struggle so much with S's at the end of things. Catching him off guard. For so long now he had tried to suppress what had happened with his own family, tried to hide the pain. But now he had found someone else who understood what he was going through, and someone whom he could understand in return. Do you want to share what happened to them? August asked, hoping he wasn't pushing too hard. At first it didn't look as if Billy was going to reply, but after wiping her eyes again, she told him what had happened the day the rain came. Told him how she killed her sister Audrey, told him that even though she and her folks never got along, she'd give anything to see them again, to have a normal life again. I'm sorry to hear that, August said. My family was taken too. Really? He nodded. The rain came, and so my family and I went out of town once we saw what it did to everyone. We thought we had escaped it, but one night my son went outside and never returned. It wasn't long before someone went looking for him, then another, then another. When they came back, they were changed, transformed. In the end, I had no choice but to. Billy's eyes grew wide. Tears stole August's breath, and getting the next words out took all he had. I couldn't let them go on like that. You killed them, Billy said, and then shot her palm over her mouth in a futile effort to catch the words before they had escaped. August sighed, picked up the rifle, laid it over his lap, and sat back in the chair. He couldn't even bring himself to nod, let alone answer her directly. I just thought that when all was said and done, God would save us. But instead he didn't, or at least didn't save them. She furrowed her brow. You know, I'd never been one for believing in God. I was raised with it, but that's as far as it went. She wiped her eyes again. I just don't see how a loving God could allow this to happen. If he exists, I mean. Well, I know he exists, August said. I'm sure of that, but as to what's going on, I just don't know. The world wasn't supposed to end this way. Hell. We've gone over this. No. Other things are supposed to happen. Maybe they still will, and this is just a bump in the road. So the... what? Bible doesn't talk about this? About zombies? That's also not true. Yeah. I'm so dumb. August couldn't help but smile. No, not about zombies, and you'd think something as important as this would show up in its pages. This is a pretty big deal. Pretty big? Okay, a very big deal. You know what I mean. He felt the fatigue setting on again, so he shook his head to wake himself up. I spent some time thinking as I drove here and then walked to Portage in Maine. I tried to figure this all out. I thought that maybe I'd remember some verse or scripture that would give a clue as to what's going on and how I could survive it. She grinned. I'll play along. Think of anything? Just one thing. Well, two, actually. Trusting God and just accepting that I'm not going to figure this out. See, that's no good. That's a big problem with you people. She snapped her mouth shut. Sorry, I mean, you Bible guys. If you don't mind me saying so, all you guys talk about is faith and trust and whatever, and expect the rest of us thinking people to just accept that. Okay, on one hand, I get exactly what is meant here, but to say that, I'm a religious person, I have faith, to say that, if you don't, and you aren't religious, that means you're a thinking person, and that I'm not because I have faith, is condescending at best, and just don't do that. Billy. Not good enough, August. She stood. People are dying. You three guys are the only living people I've seen in ages. There are others out there, but how many? I don't know. You can't tell me that some loving God is in control of all of this. It makes no sense that He'd allow this to happen. Let so many people die. So you're gonna play that card, huh? Fine, I'll play one of my own. One time Jesus saw a man who had been blind from birth. His disciples asked him, who sinned to make the guy born blind? The blind man or the blind man's parents? Jesus said neither the man nor his parents did, but that God allowed it so that later on in the man's life, the work of God might be revealed. The same deal, Billy, for you and me, for Joe and for Des. What has happened is being allowed so that later God can show Himself. Bad things happen to good people, Billy. That's just how it is. Tragedy can be turned into God's glory. Glory. Sorry, zombies on the brain. If we let it. August perked up at the old fire rekindling within. It had been a long time since that flame brewed. What? Fire brew? I don't know. Never mind. It can turn around if we're willing to see God on the matter. I'm just as upset as you. All I know is that we're going to have to ride this out. Your call. Sorry, August, but that's not good enough. Are you sure? Yeah. Chapter 31. Page 185. I take way too long to read, and then I get distracted. I'm getting distracted right now. The incessant banging coming from upstairs forbade anyone from further sleep. Dessa jumped from the floor with a shout, only to be met with an it's okay, from August. That wouldn't have woken me up, just so you know. Joe sat up, blinked some of the drowsiness from his eyes, then looked to Billy in the corner of the small room. Her eyes met his, concern written all over them. For a moment, the low, distant drumming of activity faded, and Joe wished he could offer her some words of comfort. He had heard her and August's entire conversation, but hadn't let on he was awake for fear of launching into his own story about April, Dan, and losing everything he loved. He'd been making an effort to just set it aside, put it away for the time being, so he could be of better service to his new friends. How would you feel about that? If you were in Joe's shoes, would you want to open up, or would you want to keep it to the side? The bangs were muffled, yet loud enough and firm enough to assure that the creatures making them meant business. August stood and raised his ear toward the ceiling, probably coming from the Richardson building. The windows that line the back are boarded up, the glass in front is coated in blood. You can't see a thing to the outside. He put his hands on his hips and clucked his tongue a few times. They want to come in. They've been throwing bodies against the building. You'd think somebody would ask about that. How much time do we have? Des asked. I don't know, August said. I haven't gotten in yet. Either they're too stupid to figure it out, or someone who knows what they're doing hasn't come along yet. Either way, I don't want to be around when they do. Joe drew closer to the old man. Des did the same. August carefully eyed each of them. If they come in and we're still here, we'll be trapped. They'll siphon in through the Richardson and fill the square in no time. All other exits are either boarded up or blocked. I checked the Fort Street exit earlier. Now that I blocked with desks. They're standing there outside of it as if waiting for us to come out. Unless that's changed, there's no way out. There's probably hundreds outside. Maybe more. Thousands, Billy said softly. And then there's still that window we closed upstairs, Jeff said. It wouldn't surprise me if they figure out how to get in. They don't even need to climb to the 5th floor. They just need to know about it and resolve to get inside. We have to leave, August said. Now. I'm all for that, Billy said. Me too, said Des. Where? Joe asked. Out of town. There's nothing left here anymore. To another city? Des asked. August tapped the butt of his rifle against the toe of his right foot. Maybe. There are probably others out there. Finding them is another issue altogether. More than likely, whoever is still alive is holed up in some makeshift bunker, either waiting to die or making some futile effort to wait till this all blows over. That ain't happening, Billy said. It might, August said, though Joe detected a hint of doubt in the old man's words. He assumed that whatever trust August had in God might be wavering. You said you drove in, Joe told August. Yeah, but like I said, I walked from the Trans-Canada Highway straight down to here. And it's gridlock anyway. Traffic is a mess. Unless we find 4 motorcycles, we can't get around the cars. Anyone here even know how to drive one? Bikes will probably be very useful in this situation. Can you ride a bike? It's been a while, so I know I can't. Real quick, when they say it's like riding a bicycle, you never forget, do they mean like you never forget how one rides a bicycle? Or you never forget like your body motions and whatnot to ride a bicycle? Because I forget those all the time. I can guarantee that if we took a camera, went out over here with me on a bike, I would not be able to propel myself forward without, like falling one way or the other. Never mind. Where was I again? Somewhere. Okay. They all shook their heads. Bikes, they said. I mean, regular bikes. The ones you pedal? I just said that too. Hey, if you can find them, you might have a chance, but that's a pretty big might. Marcus finally stopped tapping the rifle against the shoe. Des huffed, and Joe knew it was because the idea was shot down. Des meant well. He just didn't think before he spoke, more often than not. Don't be so hard on him, Joe thought. He's just trying to help. So what? We're gonna walk out of the city dodging zombies and hiding in the shadows? Billy asked. Yeah, we'll get killed if we do that, Des said. Billy shot Des a hot look. I know, but like August said, there's probably hundreds right outside the building. Come to think of it, there could be way more than that. We're just focusing on outside the Richardson building, never mind the rest of the buildings that connect to the square. The whole underground structure could be surrounded. Smart thinking, Des, Joe thought. If there was any one thing he had learned over the past year being a zombie hunter, it was planning for the worst. Yeah, I would see that. The low drumming from above grew louder. The creatures outside were getting pretty antsy. We need options, people, Jeff said. August, you know this place best. You were here before us. You saw what things looked like coming into town. But it was pretty much a ghost town when I first entered. But that's changed. That racket upstairs says it has. Even when we got here, things were getting pretty hairy. Wait. He couldn't believe he had forgotten about it. He attributed his forgetfulness to lack of sleep. There's also that creature still in the building. I was about to say that, said Billy. Why didn't you mention it? Joe asked August. The other one in the building when we first got here. Why didn't you tell them and only me? I didn't want to scare them. Joe stepped right up to him. You think you could scare them? Remember what they went through getting into this place? You have no idea all that has happened. Even just getting downtown, never mind all the stuff that's gone down in the past year in each of our lives. Yeah, Death said. Wait, so there's a zombie in the building? So what would you have done had I told them? August snapped at Joe. Lead an army of 2 young adults on a mad search for the undead? How do you know there's just one? He had him there. So far they'd been operating under the idea that only a solitary zombie was roaming the square. Sticking to the shadows, there could very well be a couple working together. Perhaps one's not as slow to think as their comrades outside. Just because you carry that gun of yours, Joe, doesn't make you unstoppable. And they're without firearms, August pointed at Des and Billy. You just don't get it, do you, old man? Joe thought. But August didn't have a point. It was easy to think of himself as a one-man army, some hero with a gun, like the Punisher. Although, I love the Punisher in Daredevil, the Netflix series. I'm a fan of that one, but the comic book one, nah. Let's not get into that either. What was I? However, if one thing had been proven since he hooked up with Des and Billy, that sounds weird, it was that he needed help too, just like everyone else. When was the last you heard him then? Same as you when we were upstairs. Nothing since? Billy asked. No. The beat from upstairs was joined by another, one seeming to come from somewhere else, much closer. They've made their move, August said. Then let's go, Des said. Joe turned away and counted on his fingers. No cars, no bikes, no motorcycles, no walking. He spun around and held out his arms. What are we supposed to do? Fly? August grinned. Huh. This makes me think of that one scene in one of the Resident Evil movies where they had the plane on the thing and she had to land on top of the building. Do you guys like those movies? I played the remake, or the remastered version of the original game. I haven't played any others, but I want to play probably the newest one when it comes out. Let me know if you guys would be interested in seeing that. Terrible at games, though. So, yeah. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought, what you guys would do in this situation. Excuse me. And until next time, goodbye, everybody. I feel like I'm forgetting something really important.